So it's been exactly a week since Trump got kicked off Twitter, and besides the news getting a lot more boring, a lot of people have been talking about the platforming and where the future of social media is going to be, with large tech companies and other platforms being able to kick off people at whim. So a lot of people have started to think about how they could be less reliant on these tech companies, and the answer seems to be using decentralized social media sites. So unlike platforms like Twitter or Facebook, where Facebook and Twitter make the rules, if you have a decentralized, self-hosted social media site, you can create your own instance, you can set up your own rules and kick people off if you want, and no one can silence you. All they have to do is basically prevent your instance from talking to their instance. So I did a video the other week about Mastodon, but a few people asked about Pleroma. Now I had no idea what this was originally, but a well-known YouTuber called Luke Smith made a video about it and he recommended it. So in this video I'm going to show you how you can install Pleroma. Now Pleroma, if that's how it's pronounced, I don't really know, is a decentralized social media platform similar to Mastodon. It's quite minimal. The backend is done with Elixir. It runs on Nginx and Postgres, similar to Mastodon. The one key difference from Mastodon, though, is that their developers and the community itself doesn't really put as much emphasis on political correctness and banning people who don't exactly agree with their, you know, point of view. But you see, a lot of these decentralized social media platforms use something called ActivityPub, which is essentially a protocol similar to, any other REST API or REST-based protocol. And basically, this allows them to communicate with each other. And what the idea behind it is that you have an entire ecosystem of just connected, decentralized services that can all communicate with each other. And if you're familiar with PeerTube, which is essentially a decentralized alternative to YouTube, it's based on Insidious, if you're familiar with that, which is another front end for YouTube, but it's just a way for you to host your own videos and not be reliant on YouTube. And it uses ActivityPub as well as this. And I didn't realize this, but there's actually a lot of different services that have started using this. So the idea being that they're able to communicate with each other. You can post to PeerTube or any of these other services on your Pleroma account. So yeah, let's just get started. I'm going to be using the Pleroma documentation. Depending on the operating system that you're going to be at, there's some other guides available, but I'm going to use the OTP release version. Now, I had to actually look up what OTP was, but it's something that's unique to Elixir. It's essentially similar to having Snap packages and all your dependencies and services bundled into one specific package. There's a lot of other differences though, like the processes and all the things, services and stuff running in the background seems to be contained a lot more. So I suppose it's similar to having a kind of a Docker configuration. I'm not really an expert on it, and I don't really understand much about Elixir. It's one of those weird programming languages that you've definitely heard about, but you don't really know much about. So let's just get started. The first thing you're going to need is some sort of a server or a virtual private server. I'm using Hostwinds, which is my provider. If you want to use another provider like, I don't know, DigitalOcean or Vulture or whatever, just get a virtual private server or host your own at your house if you have the time on your hands. The second thing you're going to need is a domain. So I already bought a domain for this, fresh new. I bought shiteposting.com, and at the moment there's just a really static website on it, but I'm going to turn this into my Pleroma instance. So in the site that you got your domain, like Vulture or GoDaddy or whatever, just point the IP address of your server to that domain. The next thing you're going to want to do is harden your server. So you want to disable root login. You want to make sure that anyone who tries to log in with root or logs in multiple times gets automatically sent to a SSH jail. I have a video on how to do this on my channel already. Like I said in the previous video, you need to do this before you set up your instance, and no one really watched this video, so I'm just going to presume that no one did it. You really do want to harden your SSH and set up fail to ban. just for security purposes. So definitely check out that video. So there's a few base packages that we need like curl, unzip, Postgres, SQL, and it runs Nginx in the back end. Okay, and after you've done the required packages, it mentions a few optional packages. So there's some optional features that you might want to put in, such as being able to stream videos, being able to edit pictures and stuff like that. But one thing I'm definitely going to install is EXIF tools. Now, I probably have this installed already, but if you don't know, I did a video before on how to clear metadata and EXIF data automatically from your files. So I created a service that basically does this in the back end. You can check that video out. It's also on my channel. But yeah, in case it's not installed, I'm just going to install this as well. And the reason we want to do this is that when users upload pictures or videos or whatever, it's going to automatically clear off the metadata so no one can gather any. Well, it's mainly for the user's point of view. Like, I'm not going to be doing anything in the back end with their metadata, but it's still a good thing to do in case other users might want to, like, I don't know, try to figure out stuff like user's location or something. So I'm just going to skip past configuring the PostgreSQL. This might be handy, especially as more users come on, but for the moment, I'm just going to skip over it. The next thing we're going to want to do is add a user. So sudo add user. So one thing I forgot to do before was run this command, which is just for selecting the flavor, which is just the hardware and processor type that you're using. So mine is AMD 64. If you know this already, then fair enough. But we're just going to need it for when we're creating. But we're just going to need it when we're creating an environment variable, which is AMD 64 right there. So I'm going to just run this command while switching to user, which is going to curl the Pleroma which is going to curl the Pleroma Git package, and it's going to unzip it. Again, this is just moving some of the temporary files to another location. You need to be sudo when you're running these commands, by the way. Commands are just making some directories, running some commands, and setting up Postgres and everything like that. So yeah, I'm just going to run these commands and set it up. So when you're running this Pleroma config file, it's going to ask you for a few different details. The first thing you're going to want to do is set up the domain, which is, for me, it's shiteposting.com. I'm going to write shiteposting.com again. Go to my email. So I have my own email server. If you want to know how to do that, then again, check out my video, which is how to set up a cloud server. So I'm not going to show you all the things I put in because some of them I want to remain private, but there's going to be a few options for doing stuff such as automatically removing GPS location from uploads, stuff like that, removing metadata, and you're going to want to select yes for all those things. You want to have it as private and secure as possible. So after you've run all these commands, setting up the Postgres database and everything like that, you're going to want to run this. And what this is going to do is just curl localhost on the port that Nginx is listening to. And what you're going to go get is a lot of different shite. But the one thing that you're going to want to look out for is making sure that your domain is set up correctly and that your email was set up correctly as well. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want to do is set up the SSL cert for it. So Certbox, if you're not familiar with, is just a free tool that allows you to have an SSL certificate. SSL is obviously the thing that gives you HTTPS instead of HTTP. So as you can see, this site uses HTTPS, and that just means that it's using SSL, so it's a little more secure. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what Certbox actually is, so Serpa is actually a service that's run by the EFF. These guys do a lot of really great work for access to technology, for privacy, for security, and they're one of the good guys. Okay, they do a lot of really great work, and they basically allow it so that everyone has free access to HTTPS. So if you guys are using Serpa a lot and you're using a lot of these services, I suggest that you donate at least a little bit to the EFF. I don't really have any sponsors or anything for these videos, but there's one thing I will say, it's you guys should definitely support the EFF. They do a lot of good work. So that over anyway, insert box, I'm going to specify my domain, which is again shiteposting.com. And when I do set this up, you guys should definitely like try to join or something or create an account for it. And so yeah, it just comes up, congratulations, your certificate has been obtained and it's done at this location. So now all that we need to do is copy over the config files into the Nginx sites available config files. So before you start Nginx or anything like that, you're going to want to edit this config file, and you're going to want to replace all the temporary things, so server name, example.tld and everything, with the domain that you used. And one thing that you're going to want to make sure as well is that in this SSL certificate chain, you're going to want to replace this with your domain as well. So this is just where your certificate is stored in the files. Okay, so again, run the nginx-t and you should see this message saying that the config file is okay and there's no syntax errors or anything. So you're going to want to start the nginx service. Okay, so because I have an Apache server running in the background for my email and my personal website, I just need to change the port to something besides 443. Okay, so when you've sorted out the config files, if you're like me and you're not running two different types of servers in the background, then it should be an issue. But yeah, just start Nginx and it should be running like normal. So the next thing you're going to want to do is actually set up Pleroma as a service, as a systemd service running in the background. So this just copies the Pleroma service to the systemd files and enables it. So once you start and enabled it, you should be able to run the status and check that it's running. And yep, there we go. So, fuck off. So once you got everything set up, this is what you should see. You should see a very bare bone Pleroma site set up. Now you can just do login and set up accounts, etc. And it has your banner, shiteposting.com or whatever your domain is called. Actually, it's kind of relevant. It's funny that I have the uh, lost in translation background and it has like the Tokyo background. It's actually kind of interesting. I didn't plan that, I swear, but yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, that's just a very quick tutorial on how you can set up Pleroma. I'm probably going to set up a site just for shits and giggles. Like I might just have like, a few friends join and everything like that. But yeah, that's basically it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. If you want to sign up on the site, then go right ahead. I might do another video on customizing this and making it look a bit better. Although I am liking the aesthetic of having Tokyo in the background. It looks pretty cool, especially with like the cars and stuff like that. But yeah, I might show you how to like just like customize it, change it up a bit. And yeah, that should be everything. If you have any questions, please do reach out to me. And until then, I'll see you next time.